The Vengeful Spirit, a character that has quite literally haunted William Afton since almost the start of this franchise. For someone so important to this story, going as far as to have her name revealed in the survival logbook, we actually don't know a lot about her. Or do we? Before we get started, I want to first say that everything in this video is a theory, and I am in no way saying this is fact. I also want to state that I will not be including any information we may or may not be able to infer from the Fazbear Frights books. Yes, I know the Stitch Wraith is important to this, but for the sake of this video, I will not be including them. So let's get started. The Vengeful Spirit, the bane of William's existence. Cassidy, whatever you want to call her, she's always been an enigma to this franchise. One of the children killed by Afton, and possibly one of the angriest characters to ever exist. She certainly made her mark, but the question is why? Why is this so important to her? Yes, William killed her, but unlike the others, she is determined to make him suffer long after he's dead. She's a far contrast to Charlie, who does everything in her power to help everyone move on. Even Afton, because as long as he's here, she won't leave either. So why? What is driving her to want this man to suffer so much, even going as far as to remain behind and create a possible personal hell for him? To understand Cassidy, we first need to understand the start of this timeline. To be honest, we don't actually have straightforward answers on when things occurred. For the most part, that is. We know the bite of 83. We know that the missing children incident happened most likely sometime in 85. And we know someone named Jeremy got his frontal lobe bit off in 87. Other than that, it's all a bit fuzzy, but luckily, we don't need to know exact dates to understand Cassidy. What we do need to know is the beginning. And I'm not talking about the beginning of Afton or Fredbear's Family Diner. I'm talking about the beginning of Fazbear Entertainment. Fall Fest, an event we know very little about, much like everything else in this franchise, but it keeps popping up. What is it? Well, I think it is possibly the beginning of what now has become known as Fazbear Entertainment, a carnival that goes as far back as 1970, where circus-themed characters would roam, including people dressed in costumes. Elephants, bears, birds, all of these would capture the attention of people for many years to come. That is until something new opened. Fredbear's Family Diner, a little restaurant that had only 2 characters, but was enough to capture the hearts of children all over town. By the 80s, the carnival had begun to lose a lot of business, and Fazbear was looking for any way to strum up more hype. That's when they discovered Fredbear's and decided that will be their new business venture. They purchased a building and made some animatronics that were cheap and not very practical, but suited the purpose they wanted them for, to make money. Some were continued from the carnival theme, performing bears, magic elephants, purple dressed up hippos, while others were based on a more country feel, singing frogs and banjo playing pigs. Sound familiar? It's the mediocre melodies. To compete, I think Fazbear made its own diner, and the mediocre melodies were the cast. And the people they had run this restaurant? Cassidy's parents. Why do I think the mediocre melodies were Fazbear's first animatronics? These things were janky. They moved roughly. They broke down a lot. And they ran on batteries. The sort of thing Fazbear Entertainment would be fine with as long as they continue to bring in the money. But Cassidy didn't care about all that. They were her friends, and they would continue to be her friends even in her death, as she would use them to communicate her true feelings. In Ultimate Custom Night, the mediocre melodies are just some of the animatronics you can play against. And for the most part, their death screen lines are normal.
I bet you weren't expecting me, were ya? Turn your back for 1 second and I'm like, wazoo! Ninja skills.
I was just waiting for you to drop your guard.
However, there are times when they take a dark turn, and in the background, there's the faintest whisper of someone telling them what to say.
We've only just begun. I will never let you leave. I will never let you rest.
This is how it feels. and you get to experience it over and over and over again, forever. I will never let you leave.
It's Cassidy, revealing her true thoughts and feelings through them. But why? I believe it's because those are the ones she knew, the ones from her parents' restaurant where all this started, her friends. Unfortunately, they didn't last. Sure, they were around long enough to have masks made of them, but eventually Fazbear Entertainment got Henry and William on board, people who knew how to make proper animatronics. They came in and made new ones that were based off of characters they had at the carnival in Fredbear's. The core four: Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, and Foxy. There was no more room for the mediocres, and they were tossed aside. Cassidy's friends, the characters she had grown to love, were thrown away by this man who didn't pay any mind to them at all. It's not like she could get away from her sadness. Her parents were in charge of this place after all. It wasn't long before this new restaurant took off. It was way more popular than the original, and her friends were slowly erased from people's minds, gone and forgotten, except in the mind of one little girl. Her dislike of Afton wouldn't end there, however. By 1983, Fazbear was in full popularity. There's a cartoon, toys, it's everywhere. Love of this place couldn't be higher. That was until one fateful day when a little boy had his skull crushed in by a certain bear animatronic. Cassidy's friend Evan was killed by one of the things the man she disliked helped make. Yet another reason to hate him and his creations. 2 years passed. Fazbear recovered from the incident, and her feelings would come and go. There wasn't much she could do about it. She was just a child. She couldn't complain to her parents. They were partially responsible for her feelings. Then one day at a party, it all came to a head. Afton, dressed in the spring Bonnie costume, something she hadn't seen in a while, led one child after another into the back and killed them. Finally, it was her turn. She followed him, knowing who was in the suit, not thinking anything of it, and in the room were her friends, dead, all of them. Unlike them, though, she wasn't going to sit quietly. She yelled at him, screamed at him about her friends, the ones before her animatronic friends that he helped replace, and Evan, the little boy who was killed because of his negligence. This made Afton snap, and unlike the others, he mutilated her, fueled by the anger of her words. When he finally realized what he had done, she was a bloody, pulpy mess. Too messed up to stuff into one of the animatronics they use regularly. So he shoved her in the one they don't use anymore, Golden Freddy. The thing that killed her friend. He cleaned up the mess and left, thinking it was over, not realizing the monster he had just created. There she was left to rot and stew, but she wasn't done with him, not by a long shot. If she was going to be stuck on this plane, he was too, and she was going to make it as miserable as possible. Every time he escaped, it made her more and more angry, and he always seemed to slip away. But that last time, Pizza Simulator, she had him, and he was going to suffer for all eternity, one way or another, and she was going to be there to remind him what he did, with some old faces. The faces of her friends he replaced all those years ago, and this time no one was going to stop her. Not Charlie, not Henry, and certainly not Afton.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not going to let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here, no matter how many times they burn us.
Alright guys, that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing, and I'll be back with more FNAF theory videos real soon.